Denver voters will decide on 5 separate bond proposals as part of the Vibrant Denver package. These will be for improvements to transportation, parks, health, and human service facilities, and more. We'll also decide on how at-large city council members will be elected, and will choose Board of Education members for Denver Public Schools. We'll look at the issues and candidates for the November 4th coordinated election on this edition of Denver Decides. We'll start with the ballot issues. There are 2 statewide and 8 citywide questions on this year's ballot. All but one of these proposals were referred to voters by legislators. A yes vote on any ballot question is a vote in favor of changing current law or existing circumstances. A no vote on any ballot question is a vote against changing current law or existing circumstances. If you would like to follow along, all Denver households with registered voters should have gotten a Colorado Blue Book and Denver's ballot issue notice, the Tabor notice, in the mail. Additional city issues are listed in Denver's ballot information booklet, which is available online. With information provided by those sources and the League of Women Voters, we'll show you information and pros and cons to consider. The information presented here is abbreviated to fit the format. Going in ballot order, we start with Proposition LL, which deals with the Healthy School Meals for All program. The program was created by voter approval of Proposition FF in 2022. It asks if the state can, without raising taxes, keep and spend all revenue generated by the 2022 voter-approved state tax deduction limits on individuals with incomes of $300,000 or more. It would maintain these deduction limits in order to continue funding the Healthy School Meals for All program. This program pays for public schools to offer free breakfast and lunch to all students in kindergarten through 12th grade. Here are the pros and cons for Proposition LL.
Those in favor of Proposition LL say it allows the state to retain revenue that it has already collected to support free school meals for public school students, rather than refunding it to high-income taxpayers. Access to free school meals improves academic outcomes, eliminates stigma for low-income students, and reduces hunger. Using all of the tax revenue the state has already collected will help provide more free school meals to Colorado public school students.
Those opposed to Proposition LL say it is effectively a tax increase in challenging economic times. The state collected more revenue than it estimated. It should refund the money to affected taxpayers rather than using it for a government program that gives meals to students even if their families can afford to pay for them.
Up next is Proposition MM, which also deals with the Healthy School Meals for All program and other meal programs. It asks if state taxes should be increased by $95 million annually by making a change to the Colorado Revised Statutes. This would support access to healthy food for Colorado kids and families, including the Healthy School Meals for All program. It would increase state taxable income only for individuals who have a federal taxable income of $300,000 or more. This would be accomplished by limiting itemized or standard state income tax deductions to $1,000 for single tax return filers and $2,000 for joint tax return filers. This would fully fund the Healthy School Meals for All program and continue paying for public schools to offer free breakfast and lunch to all public school students. Additionally, it would increase wages for employees who prepare and serve school meals and help schools use basic, nutritious ingredients instead of processed products. It also ensures that Colorado-grown and raised products are part of school meals. And it supports the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, that helps low-income Colorado families afford groceries. Here are the pros and cons for Proposition MM.
Proponents of Proposition MM say it ensures that free school meals are available to all Colorado students. The Healthy School Meals for All program has been more highly utilized than anticipated, demonstrating the strong need for a universal free school meal program. Access to free school meals improves academic and health outcomes and helps families at a time when food costs are rising and federal assistance is declining. When fully implemented, the program also provides students with locally sourced healthy food and boosts compensation for school meal workers in Colorado communities. Many Colorado families and individuals rely on SNAP for some or all of their food needs. SNAP improves health, economic, and educational outcomes for low-income families. The funding provided by the measure will lessen the impact of recent federal cuts to the program and allow the state to continue important food assistance and nutrition education programs.
Opponents of Proposition MM say it gives more taxpayer money to excessive government programs. The school meals program provides food to kids who do not need it or eat it, wasting both money and food. Federal changes are meant to make SNAP more cost-effective, and state taxpayers should not be on the hook for funding the program's inefficiencies. The state should live within its means and provide assistance to only those who need it most, rather than asking for millions more from taxpayers. Proposition MM is a tax increase. For many households, this would more than double the amount they have to pay, a significant additional expense. The state should not be raising taxes on many households during a time of economic uncertainty.
You can learn more about these statewide propositions from the Colorado Blue Book. Now on to city issues. We'll present the 5 bond measures and then, with help from the League of Women Voters of Denver, the pros and cons for the 5 issues as a group. For the citywide ballot, first up is ballot issue 2A, Transportation and Mobility Infrastructure and Facilities Bond. It deals with safety improvements for cyclists and pedestrians, bridges, and more. This ballot issue asks if voters should approve a bond to be used for repairs and improvement to the city's transportation and mobility infrastructure and facilities. Without imposing any new tax, the city's debt would be increased $441 million with a maximum repayment cost of $906 million. Some of the proposed improvements include Santa Fe Arts District streetscape and multimodal safety improvements. Safety improvements for cyclists and pedestrians for West 38th Avenue Multimodal Project, Evans Avenue, West 38th and Blake Underpass, 49th and Marion Underpass. Repair and reconstruction of critical out-of-date city bridges, underpasses, and viaducts, and other improvements. For more information, please refer to the ballot issue notice, the Tabor notice, which will be mailed to all households in Denver with a registered voter, or visit denvervotes.org. The next city proposal is ballot issue 2B, City Parks and Recreational Infrastructure and Facilities Bond. It deals with new parks, a new recreation center and skate park, and improvements to many city parks. It asks if voters should approve a bond to be used for repairs and improvements to city parks and recreational infrastructure and facilities. Without imposing any new tax, the city's debt would be increased nearly $175 million, with a maximum repayment cost of $357 million. Some of the proposed improvements include creation of a Southeast Recreation Center and skate park, a new Emporia neighborhood park, and development and preservation of the Park Hill open space into one of Denver's largest parks, equipment upgrades and improvements to several city parks, playgrounds, and other open spaces, and health improvements to Sloan's Lake, plus improvements and upgrades to several recreational facilities and pools. The third citywide proposal is ballot issue 2C, Health and Human Services Infrastructure and Facilities Bond. It deals with a new family health center and expansion of a child advocacy center. It asks if voters should approve a bond to be used for repairs and improvements to health and human services infrastructure and facilities. Without imposing any new tax, the city's debt would be increased $30 million, with a maximum repayment cost of $57 million. The proposal includes building a new Denver Health West Side Family Health Center to provide affordable medical services and increase availability of care, and building an expansion to the Denver Children's Advocacy Center to provide victim assistance, treatment, trauma, and mental health care. The fourth bond issue on the ballot is ballot issue 2D, City Infrastructure and Facilities Bond. It deals with many of the city's cultural facilities, libraries, and more. It asks if voters should approve a bond to be used for repairs and improvements to city infrastructure and facilities. Without imposing any new tax, the city's debt would be increased $244 million with a maximum repayment cost of $485 million. The bond would be used for critical infrastructure, improvements, and repairs to various art, cultural, library, and other city facilities. It also includes building a new first responder and public safety training center to increase safety and improve emergency and fire response, renovation of and improvements to the Denver Animal Shelter to increase rescue services and care, and building city facilities such as a library to be co-located with affordable housing options. The final bond issue this November is ballot issue 2E, Housing and Shelter Infrastructure and Facilities Bond. It deals with affordable housing, shelters, making housing more accessible for people with disabilities, and more. The measure asks if voters should approve a bond to be used for repairs and improvements to housing and shelter infrastructure and facilities. Without imposing any new tax, the city's debt would be increased $59 million with a maximum repayment cost of $94 million. The bond would be used for repairs and improvements, including but not limited to building housing that will reduce rents and support affordability, providing affordable housing to be co-located with city facilities such as a library, and improving housing and shelters to make them safer and more accessible to people living with disabilities. A yes vote for any of these ballot measures, 2A through 2E, would mean an existing mill levy that voters have previously authorized for paying back bonds would be extended and the proposed projects would move forward. A no vote for any of these 5 ballot measures would mean the city would continue to use the existing mill levy to pay down current bonds faster, and the proposed projects would not move forward. Here are the pros and cons for ballot issues 2A through 2E.
Those in favor of ballot issues 2A through 2E say, by funding local high-impact projects now, we can foster equity, strengthen the vibrancy and economic resilience of our city, and avoid higher costs for critical infrastructure down the road. With the current economic challenges, it is important to invest in projects that drive local job creation and economic opportunity. Bonds allow the city to make these investments without impacting daily services or using any of the city's regular funding, the general fund. Strategic capital investments through this bond are part of a long-term strategy to invest and improve neighborhoods across Denver, from better and safer streets to quality parks and playgrounds closer to residents. These bond issues promise 10,000 jobs and $2 billion in economic impact.
Those opposed to ballot issues 2A through 2E say it takes twice as much valuable money, whatever it is that we want for our city, when we use debt. When we use debt, we end up with a lot less for the city as we give our money to the bank. We will give somewhere between $500 million and $900 million to the banks for debt service if the voters approve this new debt. As we give large amounts of money to the banks for debt service, we leave the city with less money for actual service. Government debt doubles financial overhead and drains our budget. Most financial overhead is a waste of valuable money. Public cost breakdowns for many of the 59 proposed projects in the bond have not been provided. Taxpayers should not be asked to authorize nearly $1 billion in new debt without seeing the documentation that supports it.
To see more pros and cons, please refer to your ballot issue notice sent to all households with a registered voter. Also on the citywide ballot is referred question 2F, renaming the Department of Excise and Licensing to the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection. It asks if the charter of the City and County of Denver should be amended to change the name of the Department of Excise and Licenses to the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection. It would also change the title of the Director of Excise and Licenses to Manager of Licensing and Consumer Protection. And it would add the Manager of Licensing and Consumer Protection to the Mayor's Cabinet and update outdated language regarding licensing powers and duties. Here are the pros and cons for Referred Question 2F.
Proponents of Referred Question 2F say, the current name is confusing and misleading because it references functions that the department does not oversee, excise taxes. This change will help the public understand and better access the critical work of the agency. The new name more accurately reflects the department's service to the public without additional costs to the department. Changing the department's name will balance and reflect its two core functions, licensing and consumer protection.
There is no known opposition to this charter change.
Also on the citywide ballot is Referred Question 2G, changing the method of electing at-large Denver council members. It asks if the charter of the City and County of Denver be amended to change the method for electing the two at-large council members by designating a council member at-large seat A and council member at-large seat B. It would require that a candidate for election to either seat be elected in the same manner as the mayor, auditor, and clerk and recorder. Here are the pros and cons for Referred Question 2G.
Proponents of Referred Question 2G say, officials representing a citywide constituency should be elected by a citywide majority. Election methods should not discourage people from casting all their votes as our current method does. Placing the two at-large positions on separate Seat A and Seat B ballots ensures that all Denver elected officials receive majority voter support. The current vote for two on a single ballot prevents that. The voters' original intent when the council at-large seats were established was that they be elected by a majority. But lawsuits left Denver with a hybrid plurality winner system that has resulted in members being elected with as little as 17% of the vote and an average election percentage for all winners of just 29%. This amendment restores the original intent and will result in majority winners every time, while encouraging more candidates to join the race. The vote for two on a single ballot prompts too many voters to waste their second choice with a single shot voting only for their favorite. Undervoting in the at-large race is substantially higher than all other races, and because of this, 32% of all votes left blank. This amendment eliminates single-shot voting, thereby increasing voter participation.
Opponents of Referred Question 2G say, splitting the at-large race won't boost turnout. The problem is off-cycle, low-turnout April elections. If we want more voters to weigh in, the obvious solution would be to move Denver's municipal elections to November, when more people vote. Currently, voters can select any two candidates from a single field. This proposal would force candidates into two separate contests, limiting voters to one choice per seat, even if their top two candidates are in the same group. That's an arbitrary restriction on democratic participation. Under the new system, candidates would have to declare for either Seat A or Seat B before they start collecting signatures. That sets up a game of strategic maneuvering where candidates try to dodge stronger opponents, or wealthy interests can funnel money into defeating candidates in the weaker of two slates instead of running on their ideas. Supporters of this change say it's necessary because of undervoting, when voters only pick one candidate instead of two in the at-large race, but undervoting is often intentional. Many voters choose to bullet vote for their top candidate. A more effective solution to undervoting would be to stagger the at-large terms, selecting one in each cycle. This would preserve majority support and voter choice without arbitrary ballot splits or expensive runoffs.
The final measure on the ballot is Referendum 310, Retain Ordinance Prohibiting the Sale of Flavored Tobacco Products. This measure was put on the ballot as a result of a citizen petition. It asked voters if the city should continue the prohibition of the sale of flavored tobacco products by retail tobacco stores. It would retain Ordinance Number 24-1765, which amended the Denver Revised Municipal Code prohibiting the sale of flavored tobacco products by retail tobacco stores. A yes vote prohibits the sale of flavored tobacco products in the city. A no vote allows the sale of flavored tobacco products in the city. Here are the pros and cons for Referendum 310.
Those in favor of retaining the ban say flavors hook kids. 8 in 10 youth who try tobacco start with a flavored product like bubblegum or cotton candy vapes designed to appeal to kids. High doses of nicotine harm kids' health. Flavored vapes can expose kids to dangerous, toxic chemicals like formaldehyde and lead. Nicotine is highly addictive and can harm the developing brain, impacting attention, learning, mood, and impulse control. Big Tobacco is targeting Denver's kids. When the tobacco industry makes sweet products that taste like candy, flavors like sugar cookie, banana split, and cotton candy, or use packaging and gimmicks like video games to draw kids in, they know exactly what they are doing, drawing kids in and creating lifelong customers. A yes vote to retain Denver's flavored tobacco ban will protect Denver kids from Big Tobacco and take flavored tobacco products off store shelves.
Those opposed to retaining the ban say the ban on flavored tobacco sales would cost Denver $13 million in annual tax revenue at a time when the city faces a projected $200 million budget deficit in 2026 and has already cut its workforce by 8%. Reducing city revenue further would jeopardize essential services that residents rely on. If retained, the ban will devastate more than 100 local family and minority-owned businesses, forcing closures and potential layoffs of thousands of workers. Instead of protecting our community, the law shifts sales to nearby cities, hurting Denver while doing nothing to reduce use. Adults should be trusted to make their own decisions about legal products. There are already strict laws and enforcement that are taken seriously by both tobacco retailers and Denver authorities. This measure does nothing to improve enforcement. It simply removes legal products from the market and punishes small family and minority-owned businesses who are already playing by the rules.
Again, you can get more information from the Denver Elections Division's ballot information booklet and Denver's ballot issue notice, also known as the Tabor Notice. The Tabor Notice will be mailed to all Denver households with a registered voter. The ballot information booklet will be available online at denvervotes.org. In addition, the League of Women Voters of Denver puts out a ballot issue pros and cons booklet. You can get a copy at lwvdenver.org. Also on this November's ballot are candidates running for positions on the Denver Public Schools Board. You can see candidate statements on Denver 8 TV and at denverdecides.org. In ballot order, here are the candidates.
For DPS Board of Education Director at Large, voters will choose one of the following candidates: Alex Magana or Amy Klein Molk. Deborah Sims-Fard has dropped out of the race.
For DPS Board of Education Director District 2 in Southwest Denver, voters will choose between Mariana Del Hierro and Soshi Gaetan.
For DPS Board of Education Director District 3 in East Central Denver, the choices are Karen Blank, Donald DJ Torres, and Scott Esserman.
For DPS Board of Education Director District 4 in Northeast Denver, voters will choose between Michelle Quattlebaum, Jeremy Harris, Monica Hunter, and Tamaya Jackson.
Again, be sure to watch Denver 8 TV and visit denverdecides.org to hear from these candidates. Denver has been a pioneer in conducting safe, secure mail-in elections and has successfully conducted mail-in elections for years. All registered Denver voters will receive a ballot in the mail. If you haven't registered or you need to verify or change your information, visit govotecolorado.gov. You can return your ballot at a 24-hour drop box, a drive-through, or by mail. Or you can vote in person at a voter service and polling center. The locations and hours are listed in your Denver's ballot issue notice. You can also track your ballot with Ballot Tracks. Sign up at ballottracks.com. To learn more about the election, including important dates, to check your voter registration, learn where you can vote, and stay informed, visit denvervotes.org. If you need a new ballot or if yours did not arrive, you can request a new one by calling 311 or 720-913-VOTE. That's 720-913-8683. In order for your vote to count, Be sure your ballot arrives by 7 p.m. on Election Day, November 4th. Let your voice be heard. Exercise your right as an American and vote.